What is up, Ridge Runner Nation? Welcome back to our 2021 year in review and Eastern Ultra Runner of the Year Voss Talks show. Voss Talks, the only sports talk radio show about trail and ultra running. Not, as you might have imagined, named after the gentleman to my left, Nick Voss, but after Voss Water. We were chasing a sponsorship. They wanted nothing to do with us, but had to keep the branding the same, so we brought Voss on to help out. Anyways, with all of that said, how are all you boys doing tonight? Wesley, I know you just went on an epic journey to get back to Utah from Ohio. Very, very Hallmark-esque, and I'm really hoping that, much like a Hallmark movie, there's going to be somebody waiting for you there in Utah who can teach you the true meaning of Christmas.
That the only thing that didn't happen over this trip back west for me, I a 36-hour travel day the past 2 days trying to get back here. I made it back 2 seconds ago for Voss Talks. I'm super excited to kind of dive into the reflections and the awesome runners that we're going to highlight tonight. But Voss, what about you? What's up, man?
Oh, all good, man. Just holding it down here. I'm still in Ohio. I've been here on a nice little hiatus from the mountains, and I'm taking it easy and spending some time with family. So it's been good.
It's good to see you in Ohio, Voss. I heard you got an honorary addition to being a Cincinnati runner now.
Oh yeah. I've been at quite a few of the group runs around here, so it's been nice. Shout out to Roebling Runners and Andrew Waugh himself. Always the most hospitable host of the group runs there.
I think we should move forward with our favorite section of the live show here. And who's drinking what this evening? Wesley, you came in a hot minute. Do you even have anything in the fridge there, or what?
I literally just had to check. I had no idea what I even had, but I did have another Blizzard Wizard from the last time, so I'll be drinking this hazy pale ale. Awesome. Cam, what about you?
All right, and I have the Powderhound Winter Ale from Big Sky Brewing here in Missoula, Montana. We have had some snow, and I have frankly been loving it. Even the 20-degree day today was actually pretty solid out there on my run, so this feels very fitting. What about you, Mr. Voss? What are you drinking down there in Ohio?
That's good. Extra seasonal of you, Cam. I've got a Foggy Geezer. This is a collab from Three Floyds and McKellar Brewing Company. It's a hazy IPA.
John?
Nice.
I got this evening a Brewdog Lightspeed hazy IPA, and I obviously have a reserve too, because you always got to have those for this kind of show here. I've got the Brewdog Elvis Juice Grapefruit Infused IPA, which is a favorite of mine as well. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and we're going to go ahead and start by just letting you know that number there is on screen. If you want to text us, call in, share your thoughts about your 2021 year in review, or any of your thoughts about, performance of the year, ultra runner of the year for the Eastern U.S., go ahead, text that number. We will get you in the queue to call. But we are going to go ahead and start by, I'm going to announce our Women's Performance of the Year award. I was really stoked on this because we put out that form for nominations for these awards, and the responses we got for women absolutely blew me away. More people were nominating women than were nominating men. I was super excited to see that from y'all, that everybody out there was stoked about women's performances, specifically in the East. And we're going to go ahead and get started. With fourth place, we've got a tie here. And this is between Mika Thews at the Cloud Splitter 100 mile and Holly Ann Swan and her course record at the Rim to River 100. And her win there, and I believe fourth place overall. Leslie, am I remembering that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right, and then we are going to go to third place was Sarah Cummings' second fastest time ever and win at the JFK 50 mile. And then second place is another Sarah who was actually second at the JFK 50 mile and ran the fourth fastest time ever. But her win at the Promised Land 50K, breaking a 20-plus-year-old course record by, I believe, a little bit less or a little bit more than 20 minutes. Just absolutely incredible performance there. And the winner of our Women's Eastern U.S. Ultra Running Performance of the Year is going to be Rachel Spalding's Hellgate 100K course record win. and first woman under 12 hours on the brutal Hellgate 100K course. Rachel, we were so stoked to have you on last week, and you got so many people in your corner who were nominating and bringing you up for this award even before this performance. And I think it's really, really well deserved after the year you put together.
Yeah, what are the thoughts from the team? Nick, do you have any thoughts on these performances that you saw this year?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Rachel ran away with it with that 100K performance. So just the order of which we're announcing these, I think, is interesting too. You know, with still with Eastern Ultra Runner of the Year for the women coming too. I thought Sarah Beale's performance was really, really, really great too. I mean, obviously, it has it took second place there, but I think it was a big CR, beat by over 20 minutes. So that was a big one, but maybe that's a little bias to be in there for it too.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with those thoughts as well. I think, the Hellgate course record is, one that was, people were chasing for a while. Leah said it last year, and then, for Rachel to kind of come back and said it again was definitely a special race out there this year. But yeah, so many incredible performances across the East Coast on the women's side this year. So it was kind of awesome to highlight those as we went along. So before we dive into the next award, let's toss it to one of ourselves, and Cam, maybe you can pick here. Who wants to start with our personal reflections?
Well, actually, real quick before that, I do want to throw some shout out to some of the other folks who got nominated for this award. It wasn't just those four, of course, but we really did have a really great response, especially with the women's side of things. And some other folks who were nominated for this Women's Eastern U.S. Ultra Runner Performance of the Year was Tara Dower's run at the Blood Rock 100. Michelle Magagna's, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. I know I did on our show, but it's been a hot minute since we had her on. Her overall win at the Big Turtle 50 miler, and then also a special shout out to her 11th place at Western States. After that, Jennifer Russo's assist run at Ohio's Backyard Ultra also got a lot of love. Sarah Beale, as we already mentioned, her second place finish at JFK. Rachel Spaulding, her win at Old Dominion 100, even before her Hellgate performance, was getting some mentions there, along with Nettie Zepatella's race at A Race for the Ages and Alyssa Clark's Pinhoti Trail FKT. And then finally, to round this out, we had got a couple nominations for Lindsey Sexton, whose No Business 100 finish in, I think, about 32 hours came about a year removed from cancer recovery, if I remember correctly, which is definitely a little bit of a different performance than what we normally see in these kinds of things. We're going through that like course record, and here's somebody who's definitely got a really blue collar attitude, who went through a lot and came back and, still showed up and, didn't blow the doors off of anybody, but certainly did her best performance. And I think that kind of stuff is also worthy of some nominations, even if I didn't, have it at the top of my own personal list.
Yeah, no, that's great, Cam.
Yeah. And so along with that, we'll go ahead and start with our own 2021 reflections. Of course, that number is there. If you would like to call in, let us know what you thought about the Eastern U.S.'s performances of the year. Go ahead and do so. Our boy John will get you on the line with us. But yeah, 2021 for me was really just a whole year centered around Rim to River 100, which, I signed up for it the minute it opened. I actually stayed up till midnight on New Year's Eve only to sign up for that, which was a stupid choice, frankly, because I got really terrible sleep that night. I wanted to fall asleep beforehand, and I definitely didn't need to. The race didn't sell out that fast, although, Bryant, we're hoping for better luck this year with it selling out that fast. Maybe people will need to stay up. And I think it kind of finished for me what really was honestly kind of like a 2-year plateau, or almost even like a little bit of a slide backwards that started around getting injured, the same time COVID started in grad school, having setbacks in recovery, and then kind of getting my feet back under me, but not really getting back to training with any specificity or any intention, and a big part of that for me after moving to Missoula, Montana was, I wanted to be able to have fun running again, because before I left Ohio, I did not have fun, doing anything, frankly. And that was a big part of the reason that it spurred this move out here for me, was to chase, my own version of happiness. I'm 24 and single with a remote job. Why am I not living in a mountain town, and, I think that training block from that perspective of, I want to learn how to have fun running again, really was that way. I had some of the most fun times of my life, and I went on some really incredible adventures, both close to home and in some epic places. We circumnavigated the Grand Tetons together. I did 30 milers from my front door. I have a backyard mountain now that I can kind of call my own, that I could go up. And that was a really big and necessary change for me, that I think, despite not getting the performances that I wanted out of 2021, not getting that finish at Rim to River 100, that I definitely have something to take away for it, and a lot of lessons to apply to my training for next year going forward.
Yeah, no, Cam, I think that's, great to kind of hear your thoughts there. And, I at this point, I think we're going to kind of each kind of pepper each other with a bunch of questions. And, if you have your reflection that you want to have, just text that number and we'll get you on to share your own reflection, Rich Hunter Nation as well. But Cam, one thing I want to talk about with your year is, you signed up for a bunch of races this year. That was kind of your goal, is to gain a more experience at races. Because personally, you can probably name the amount of races that you've been to maybe have raced on one hand at this point. But talk about, what that looks like maybe for 2022, or, what didn't work, what did work in terms of the actual race days for you this year.
I think I went into it wanting to use races as a part of training, right? B and C races. That's a pretty well-known principle. Tons of people do it, and I failed to do that in part because I failed to, frankly, properly periodize my training, and I failed to train above any sort of level, frankly, of kind of a hobbyist, which this is. Trust me, I definitely don't get paid to be this slow. But in the past, I took it more seriously. And I've frankly always kind of been a person who kind of takes his hobbies a little bit too seriously. But I think in a way that it was a failure in how I originally intended to use them, because they didn't work for that, because I didn't have the discipline outside of those races to do the proper training, find how many speed works I did in 2021 on Strava, find how many days I did strides even. I've got no excuses for the little amount of work I did, other than just, the headspace I was living in for most of 2021 and trying to get back to a better place after I moved in a way that I think was successful, but was definitely, how do I put this nicely, suboptimal 100-mile training. If you are training for a 100-miler, do not ever do what I did. Kind of find your why beforehand, and don't sign up and then, signed up 11 months out, and then 10 months out, you're kind of like, I'm really not even convinced I still want to do this, So that was the big thing. And then the other thing I learned from just doing more races is that sometimes, racing can be fun when you show up and you don't put any pressure on it, and it's just kind of there. And I signed up for 2 races this year, the week of the Cold Prickly's 30-miler in Ohio, put on by our friends Mid Ohio Race Management, Ryan Poland there. And then the Blue Mountain 30K here in Missoula, Montana. And I had a ton of fun at both of those races, because it was just okay, well, I'm just doing my weekly long run in a different place. And I did not take it that seriously. Cold Prickly's, I was running up to the starting line because I was about to be late for my wave start. That's, just kind of the energy I had going into it. And it was a really solid day for that. But, other than that, I think going forward, I could potentially use races and race more as a way to get the effect that I intended from them in 2021. But I've got to do the littler things first, and I've got to be more disciplined every day before I go, sticking with these grand goals. I said it probably a year and a half ago that, in 10 years, I want to win the Hard Rock 100. I think that's still a 10-year goal. I don't know when that 10 years starts to actually shrink, and when it'll be a 9-year goal and then an 8-year goal. I've got to figure that one out eventually, maybe once I finally have a ticket for the lottery. but it still feels that far off. Like I need at least 10 years to even get to that starting line, even though all this time has passed.
Nick, any thoughts?
No, I mean, I think I think Cam did kind of what he set out to do in terms of setting those goals and racing more. Like I think newer ultra runners can benefit a lot from racing more, and kind of like Cam said, it's just how you approach it, how you go into it, the mindset that you take into it. I think clearly from listening to Cam describe it, like we see things a little differently in terms of what we're doing and why we're doing it and everything. So he just takes a much more analytical approach, but there's nothing wrong with that.
John, what about you? You beat Cam at basically every single ultra marathon that you two raced against each other at this year. What are your thoughts on his year?
I was waiting until I was talking about my reflections before I talked about how Cam got bodied this whole year by me running. But
I deserved it, honestly. I earned those losses.
But you still got up and you still showed up at every single one of those races, I think, except for one, right?
I don't think I had any DNSs. I had some DNFs.
Yeah.
I don't think I had any DNS.
I think you had the DNS when you moved. You dropped out because you moved, or you didn't actually sign up for Tuscazor because you were moving.
Oh, I did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But all said and done, I think Cam accomplished his goal of getting out there and experiencing different courses around the area and whatnot. And I'm hoping to see him grow next year into that and experiencing some different types of races out in Montana in that area. I think it'll be really good for him. So I'm excited for that.
Definitely. And moving right along, we actually have our first caller, I believe, in the queue. So let's get them on the line right now and kind of have them give their reflections for the year. Who do we have on the line and where are you from?
It's Michael Gamp. Can you hear me?
We've got you, Michael. How are things going with you?
You there, Michael?
You still there? Oh, we might have lost Michael for a second. We can try to get him back on the line here in a second, but Michael, call us back, and we'll get you on the line here, and we'll try this again. But yeah, no, I'm excited to hear Michael's story from this year. He's kind of had an incredible year, and I'm excited to kind of hear him talk about it in his perspective. So it's going to be cool to kind of hear that.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully we'll be able to get him back on here. That's the fun part of live shows here, is we got to play with the technology as we go. So rolling right on, though, maybe we should look at Nick's year in review. I think we'll put you in the hot seat next.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump into it. I think first, looking back at the year, if I kind of go in chronological order, because that's the easiest thing for me to do. I think the start of my year started off pretty consistent, and I think that's big thanks to the SCOTR Winter Virtual Challenge that started off this year. And shout out to that race. It's happening again. Anybody in Ridge Runner Nation who hasn't signed up, get in on that. We've got a team going again this year, so happy to get out there and log some miles. So that's a great way to start the year, and it started off pretty good for me. And then I think I got a little bit of a gift from Cam in our goals there, where he decided to take a shot at me and say, "Hey, I'm going to beat you by 20 miles or 20 hours." I don't remember how many he said he was going to beat me by at OBU.
I think it was 20 miles, and then it became like 5 hours. I was pretty ambitious. I really did think I had 80 in me, but we'll leave my performance at OBU for another day.
So that kept me honest with my training, a little bit going into OBU. But I'm just, I think I've just realized that, I've got to kind of either be happy with being a lower volume runner in terms of the day-to-day stuff and balancing, life with that, and how that translates to ultras. I think it does okay for 50Ks and maybe even 50 miles. But then, as the year progressed, I went for some tougher races, and honestly, I gotta just blame Wes. I mean, both the races he came to, DNF'd both of those. So I think Wes is bad luck too. So I don't know. I think I need new crew, new friends. I don't know. But honestly, I had a blast. Even those a couple races I DNF'd at Scout Mountain and then Run Rabbit later in the year. They're just a product of lack of volume and not being prepared. So, but those are still both new places, new trails to run for me. Had a great time, still learned a decent amount. And I still find that every year I'm able to recover from races better, and faster than previously. So I think that lifetime experience, lifetime miles thing, there really is something to it. So onward and upward, hopefully.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I'll just stop coming to your races, man. I had fun going to Idaho, and I had fun going to Colorado and first the Run Rabbit run. But if that's what it takes, and even OBU, I was there for you there, and Promised Land, I think too. So we had a couple of good adventures this year, but I'll just hands off for 2022. It's all good.
Yeah, I will say, I think at Promised Land 50K, actually, both my car breaking down on the course, and then the three of us being the only guys who were there at like 1 p.m. the day before, to have the porta potty guys think that we were involved and ask us, hey, where do we drop these off? I think that was integral to Nick's race. So you need to wish for some bad mechanical luck for me. Also, you got to start showing up to things earlier. I think that's where your next year's journey should go.
Yeah, we should have played a prank on Horton and had him drop off those porta johns like all the way in the back side of that field or something, just way out of the way.
Would have been incredible.
Looks like we've got Michael back in the waiting room here, so we're going to go ahead and bring him in again and see if this works this time around. Michael, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Great. We were just talking about reflections this year, so we were kind of looking back at this whole year for each one of us, and was hoping to see what yours was like. What was your year like for running, and what were your favorite moments?
My favorite moment is I think back over the year, and you mentioned reflections and looking back is something I don't really do. I don't really think I have a rearview mirror on my vehicle. There's just an accelerator, so we're just moving forward. But as we're coming to the end of this year, I was thinking back at the beginning of the year when you guys had your goal episode, and I responded. I said I have one goal. I want to stay healthy for 2021, and so by golly, I stayed healthy for 2021, and for the first time in several years, I made it to every starting line every race that I signed up for, and every finish line. So just couldn't be more happy than that. But as I reflect more on 2021, I'm sure all of us have seen the Strava year in review things come up with all the data and numbers. I got to thinking more reflective over the past, and data aren't goals, they're outcomes. It's outcomes of the other things that we do in life. So the simple thing about being healthy, that's what resulted in the goals that happened to occur. I mean, that was an outcome of other things. And as I look back over 2021, happy about that, but the thing I think that we do sometimes lack, or I see, is the Strava numbers don't tell the story. What about the people? I'm sitting here looking at two people who a year ago hadn't finished a 100-miler. I don't know if any of you saw Maggie Solander's video when she finished the Shawnee 50, like a few minutes before cutoff, where she was dancing. That's what 2021 is about. My friend Buck Michael finished a 100-miler in under 24 hours, like his first 100-miler. It's like all those things to me mean a whole lot more for 2021 than any goals or any numbers. So that's my reflection looking back, and look forward to what I would offer to everyone on the call tonight. Just think about that. The numbers are interesting, but think about it. No one's going to remember your numbers.
I love that. I love that you're bringing your best moments are other people finishing too. Like you talked about all these other people finishing their races, and you're like, that's what I remember from the year. And I think that's awesome as a part of reflection to look back to be like, I succeeded, but also all these other people who did succeed as well. So.
Absolutely, John. And whenever we were at Alley Marathon, you and I saw Sam Harton put on just an out of the park first class event right out of the gate. Wonderful, like trail marathon down there in Alley Park. I got to stand there and high five. I don't know how many people, how many times as they did that loop over and over and over again. And I stayed there long enough that I got to have the pleasure of hanging finisher medals, I think, of almost everyone that finished that race. And so I saw people, hey, this is my first half marathon. It's like, seriously, you picked this for your first half marathon? 500 feet per loop. I mean, just outstanding performances. So that's really what I like what you guys are doing with this show and what these conversations come about. It's like, running is just ancillary. It's like all of the human part of it is what the stuff that really matters. We see the successes, and the successes are great, but there's also the failures and struggles in there as well. And something I'll share here this evening. It's like I haven't shared a whole lot. It's like I suffer with sometimes like some anxiety issues. Like running is a place where it gets me well. We see the strengths, we see the accomplishments, but you also often don't see that sometimes like what you see as like a phenomenal performance may not have like the strength behind it that you think is there. So I think as we share our strengths and also share our vulnerabilities, we move all this forward just another step or two. And I think that that's just a much bigger thing than even running.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Even like, I think many of the runners listening can probably definitely agree with you in their own ways in terms of how running is beneficial for them, mentally and whatever. For them, each individual person is what I'm saying. Yeah. So, but
yeah. Quick thing I got here from Michael, you kind of talked about the human element of running, and you kind of before that you were talking about how you were able to kind of toe the line at more races and you stayed healthy in 2021. Maybe talk a little bit about that. The goal for everyone, or looking back at a year, being healthy throughout the whole year is obviously always goal number one. What did you do really well? Was there anything you added differently in your training this year that was incredibly successful, or what tips do you have specifically for regeneration?
The tips I would have is don't do it the way I did and learn it all the hard way by making all the mistakes and figuring out what not to do. So the things that you've all heard, you'll probably repeat it over and over again so much that they're cliche, is like cross training is important, take days off, rest, going out and hitting it hard on every training run is not going to get you anywhere other than injured. And I'll share this, with you, Wesley. It's like I, at one point in my life, had a running streak that went for at least 5K at the minimum for 10 straight years. And I'm not proud of it. It just got me hurt. It didn't move me forward at all. So, I've learned some things to apply. It's like, I don't run more than 5 days a week. You'll see me on bicycles. You see me doing strength training. You see me in the pool even occasionally. It's like, mix it up, and, don't beat yourself up. It's more important to stay healthy than it is to like log 100-mile training weeks. If you log a 100-mile training week and you're injured, you're not going to finish anything anywhere. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that answer, especially talking about the longevity aspects of it. I think, maybe people get so, focused in on one training block for one race and, don't really look big picture. And I think the kind of approach that you took for the whole year was one that a lot of people should kind of consider for 2022.
Yes, be patient. Be patient. Also, the other thing that's cliche is like, you do need to put in enough training, so you do need to prepare. But there's a point where it is diminishing return, and I can tell you from experience that I have hit that point far too many times. Went too hard, too fast, too long, streaked for too long, and it ended up getting me injured. And also, the other outcome was I lost the joy of why I was doing it in the first place. So, all the things I said before, it's like I would trade all the medals on the wall, all the things that I've accomplished, and any stat that's up on Strava for all those human connections over 2021, because ultimately all the rest of that stuff doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's just going to be forgotten. The impact we have on others is the stuff that moves forward. That expands upon itself. It lives beyond us.
Yeah, I love all these reflections and talking about everything from the year. So I appreciate you calling in today and talking to us and talking about all the reflections from the year and all the people who did good this year. So again, thanks. And hopefully we'll see you out in the trails in the spring somewhere.
All right, guys, keep up the good work.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Mm-hmm. That was that's one thing you don't get out here much more in Montana. That was a very Midwestern. Goodbye. It's got to be kind of that 2 syllables. You all know what I'm talking about. Where definitely appreciate that from Michael. I will say I didn't want to call him out too much when he was on the line because I know what he could say about how this year went for me. But if you say you don't see people's their emotions, what they're going through on Strava, and I'm going to disagree. If you follow me, you know what I'm going through. Strava changed their thing to have that, like, put your private notes here when you edit your activity. I think that might solely be targeted at me. I still refuse to use it. If I'm having a bad day, you're going to know about it. That's just life. So that's, it is what it is. And maybe a reason to unfollow me if you don't like it, because I'm not going to change that. I use Strava for me.
I think there was a lot to appreciate though with what Michael was saying there too, and I think the one thing that resonated with me the most, obviously him talking about the people, and the experiences that we have, and that's kind of what really matters, not the numbers. I think that's an easy thing that it definitely resonates with me, and I think a lot of times in the past I felt like I was maybe deflecting away from the numbers, or trying to use those things, and in my head it was a little bit of that, like, either imposter syndrome or just like telling myself, oh, you're just deflecting by talking about those things. But I think hearing him say that, it's pretty clear. It's not deflecting. That if that's what really matters to you, I think that's what motivates you and keeps you going, and that's a good thing to reflect on at the end. Like you said, it's fine to set goals, but at the end of the year, it's not really about the numbers because they don't tell that story.
Words of wisdom from Nick Voss.
Absolutely. And some words of wisdom from Michael Gamp. There's no rearview mirror on his car. So if you got a car, you're listening to Voss Talks right now, you know what to do.
Take it out, not needed.
You see Michael driving, you go the other way. You get away from him as fast as you can. He's got no mirrors.
He's got no mirrors. He doesn't need them. He's not going back.
You know what they say about Ohio drivers? You can't have them. Can't have damn deal with Ohio drivers. It's people driving with 2 feet in the state. It's a crazy thing. But let's dive into Nick, your award that you're going to announce now.
It's going to be the Men's Performance of the Year award.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the Men's Performance of the Year. So not to be confused with the Ultra Runner of the Year in the East. So for this one, we had a lot of really great entrants as well. As Cam said, not quite as many as the women, of course, but I think for this one there were some more clear-cut favorites for some of the performances that we had. So going through number 4, we did have a tie. This one was between Michael DeBova at Hellgate, setting the course record in the 100K there, and Arlen Glick winning at Javelina 100, which I was a little confused. I read the form as saying that the performance had to happen in the East, but that was one of them on there too that honestly I didn't even consider. So those tied for 4th place. 3rd place we have Adam Peterman, so a Montana guy but racing in the East, with his JFK 50 win. That was the 2nd fastest all time, just a few seconds slower than Hayden Hawks last year at JFK. And then 2nd place, this one was a pretty big one. So Zach Bevan, his Strolling Gym course record and win at the 40 miler down there. That course record has been in place for a long time. They've started incentivizing people to come and break it by increasing the prize money for that course record. So cool to see him go down and take that one. The last one, so our number one performance of the year. And I think if you didn't see that this happened in the ultra running world, you might have been sitting out the whole month of October. But it's Cincinnati's own Harvey Lewis taking down, finally getting the win at Biggs and winning the backyard down there. World record. It's the longest that anybody's ever gone. I don't remember the exact numbers. Anyone remember what that was? It was 350 some miles.
I think it was 350.4 or something like right around there.
Yeah.
Just
incredible.
Absolutely incredible there. And then while we're at that, I know we can mention one of our honorable mentions, or the people that were nominated there, was Chris Roberts, also with the assist, to help get Harvey there to that point. So I'll run through just the others that we nominated, and then we can dive into those. But the other nominations: Caleb Bowen, his Rim to River 100 win and course record there. Arlen Glick, his win at Mohican and course record there, which was another big course record at Mohican. Daniel Green, second place at Rim to River and his 100-mile debut. So I think that's interesting. Showing up and throwing down such a fast time in your debut is notable for performance too. Greg James at Cloud Splitter 100. And then the last one that was nominated here was Brian Ames, his 100K run on the power lines in Cincinnati. So, and personally, I got to experience those just last week. And it's a fun little off trail kind of in between neighborhoods kind of in Cincinnati that just rolls up and down a couple of 100 or 200 foot hills there. So 100K on that is pretty impressive as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the very first thing that comes out for me is, how do you not have Harvey Lewis winning Performance of the Year A? But I feel for Zach Beaven, because any other year he's a runaway winner, in my opinion. I think his Strolling Gym performance was phenomenal. He beat Harvey Lewis at that race. It wasn't an A race for Harvey. He was using it to tune up for Badwater, which I believe he also won. But just the performance, and if you've never seen or heard about the Strolling Gym course, it is a road 41 miler with, I believe, 3,000 feet of elevation gain and loss, which is just an incredibly hilly road race. And Zach ran it at around 5:36 pace, I want to say, if I remember correctly, which is just like mind-boggling for me to run that fast on those hilly of roads for that long. It's another one of Laz's other races that he does. I think, his non-Barkley races don't get enough love. Vol State seems really incredible. And this Strolling Gym here too is a really historic ultra as well. It's been going on for so long. To see somebody go and, break the course record, and Zach Beaven was really open about it. He's like, I want to break this course record. This is something that I think I can do. And to see him finally break that, I think was really incredible. And I also got to shout out his race report that he wrote about it. I think race reports are kind of like a dying art, to write one that's both entertaining and you can have takeaways from. Maybe if I ever finish a race, I'll try to write one myself. But I really got to hand it to Zach on that note as well. I think if Zach's in one of Harvey's government classes that he teaches, that's A+ essay in his Strolling Gym race report. So those are my thoughts about that list. Wesley, what do you have to add?
Yeah, so I first off, agree with everything you said about the Strolling Gym performance, but I do want to take another second to congratulate Harvey on this incredible accomplishment for setting the world record. Going to Ohio's Backyard Ultra and using that and kind of learning a lot of things through that race. He has so much Backyard Ultra experience. He's been there, he's done that in the scene, but to go down to Biggs this year and compete with the top people was truly the performance on the East Coast for this entire year. So well deserved, Harvey. One thing I do want to mention, Cam, you mentioned race reports. There's someone who wrote an incredible one about the Hellgate 100K. He's actually in the chat right now. Chris Roberts, he said, thanks for the honorable mention, y'all. Much appreciated. Chris, yeah, you did a phenomenal year this year with, your assists at the Backyard Ultra, the other races that you accomplish as well, the assisted capital and Biggs, and then Hellgate and all the other ones. So congratulations to you on the incredible year. That's kind of my thoughts. Is there are so many epic performances. Arlen's West Coast performance. And Arlen breaking the Mohican 100 modern day course record. I believe I don't think it was the road course record back in the day, but the modern record's the one that really counts on the new course. So many epic performances this year, and can't wait to see what's in store next year. John, do you got anything?
No, I don't have anything else really to add besides you've kind of got all the fun aspects in regards to Harvey and Chris's performances out there. I mean, I was sitting there, waiting and just hoping to see it go to 400 when they just blew past 300 like it was a joke. I was like, I don't know what's real anymore. I was questioning my existence in life and watching them go towards the 350 and 400 range. And that part right there was great. Even looking at Arlen's performance at Javelina, when you guys brought that up, I think he went out there, and I love the memes. Arlen made it on your boy Scott Jurek on Instagram. If you aren't watching that meme channel, you need to go check that one out. They're like, who is this kid from Ohio? So I'm stoked to see him next year perform probably even better than he did this year. And so I think that one was a fun one to go through, all the different performances that were out there. So those are my thoughts on the Eastern performance of the year.
It's interesting too how those performances, weigh in when we're deliberating and trying to decide who the ultra runner of the year is. When you're looking at the full body of work, and obviously it gives us a good baseline when you look at some of those top ones and comparing against each other too.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into the next couple sections of awards, let's recap Mr. Wesley Harton's year over here.
I think this is about the time to do this. So this is going to be interesting, because I do want to start off by saying, this was an incredible year overall for me, but I do want to take a second, really focus in, because I had one failure in 2021, and this is one I don't really want to share with Regener Nation. It's kind of one of those, you talk about the highs, we also got to talk about the lows. And for me, the Monday mile is one of the most important things to me in my running career. Every single Monday I have a rule: I run 1 mile, and this year I went 51 of 52, and on September 20th 2021, I was 38 of 38, and let it slip from my grasp, and that was a really hard thing to deal with.
Wes, I'm so happy that's where you went with that. I was gonna say, dude, you have so much time to find a wife. I thought that's where you were going.
If you're not watching the stream, you're missing a vein come out of my forehead. So hard. This guy. The reason he missed that Monday mile, I believe, will remain classified.
No, I'm willing to share it. So, for me, I normally will schedule, if I go on a date or whatnot in the evening time or whatnot, usually I try to get the Monday mile and before that, or maybe wake up early or whatnot. And, this was a quick one, 5:30 right after work. You're going right from work basically to the date, first date. I'm like, I'll do a late night 11 o'clock mile. But, 18 hours later, no Monday mile. Tuesday at 5:01 p.m. when I got off work to check Strava, I didn't even realize it until late night Tuesday. I was like, unbelievable. I ruined the Monday mile streak. So that's, just a fun little thing to look back on. But, no, for me, for a serious note, it was an incredible year for me. It was my first time hitting 3,000 miles in a year. And, Michael mentioned before talking numbers, but I think for me it kind of was something I was working to throughout the whole year. I was pacing Andrew Watt, the Leadville 100, and we were talking all things late in the night in the mountains, and he was asking me about what would make the rest of the year successful for you. And I told him that for me, success looks like finishing the Rims River 100 and finishing the year with 3,000 miles. And as long as I take care of business, 35 miles I think left to go before Friday. I should hit that. So, but it was an interesting year because like normally I like love to race, and you know that's something I'm really passionate about. But it just didn't happen a whole lot this year. I only towed the line twice at Mohican and Rim to River, both 100-milers, and so that's something where looking back, I wish I raced more, and it's something I'm definitely going to work towards in 2022. But I also had so many epic experiences, at races this year. Ohio's Backyard Ultra, Promised Land 50K, Zion 100 miler, Scout Mountain 50, Burning River 100, Leadville 100, Run Rabbit Run 100, Wasatch 100, Canal Corridor 100. I think I'm even missing one from that list, but that's all I can recall right now. So I got a ton of experience crewing and pacing, kind of adding and seeing the different scenes. And the one thing that I am taking away from this year most is that I really kind of fell in love with the sport of ultra running on a deeper level. And I think that came through, being at more races, crewing for other people, seeing, people accomplish their goals. One of the highlights from my year, and, I looked back on this clip the other day, was seeing John cross the finish line at Canal Corridor 100 and being handed that medal from Emily Collins. That was easily one of the highlights of my entire year. And, being able to, pace Andrew Watt to a Leadville 100 finish and, pacing Michael Owen at Wasatch 100. It was just those little moments. Paul Noble at Zion 100 miler. It's just incredible to kind of, be there for these people in the sport. And so that's kind of the one thing I'm taking away is my love for the sport really grew in 2021. I'm excited to see where it takes me in 2022.
Wes, what does that look like? You said you're going to race more. What does that look like? Are you going to plan out more races early in the year? Because we know a lot of races, fill up and sell out quick. Or are you going to take a different approach? And it just reminds me of this year. I think the most fun I had in a lot of my races were, number one, some of the shorter, like sub-ultra races that I did. I had a lot of fun there, and just races I kind of jumped in at the last minute. I had a ton of fun at Shawnee 50K. Didn't really specifically train or prepare for it, but it just ended up being a blast down there. So I'm interested, like how you're going to take, what approach you're going to take to trying to add more races to your calendar.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spill all the secrets on this episode because we do have a goals Voss Talks coming up that'll kind of talk about that. But I think it is important to kind of, you do have to register to races to run races. I think that's, it's not a secret. It's kind of what you have to do. And, so I didn't register for a ton of races in 2021. So that's kind of the one thing I'm focusing on for 2022 is, putting my name in the hat. Cam today tagged me in a post about a race that's happening. And, I said, let's do it. I'll be, coming off another race, maybe you won't be super fit, but, I think it'll be cool to kind of just be there for the community and experience it in a different way. Throw those B races on, throw those C races back on my calendar. I'm excited to experience it and, as well as a couple A races as well in 2022.
Super excited about that.
I will say, Wesley, we do know you're a big data guy. It's your Strava account is not safe if Wesley's around is a thing that I think, you can say something, like, oh, I've never run when it's 17 degrees before. And he's going to find that run, drop it in the group chat and be like, oh, really? And here's what I'm thinking, I know you've poured over your year in sport. You've seen the goals, 51 out of 52 Monday miles. Obviously DNF at Mohican, but a finish at Rim to River 100. If you had to compare your year to any one professional ball sport athlete's year, who are you going to compare yourself to and why?
That's a great question, Cam. And for me, I think it's really only one answer that hits this one on the head, and it's Jeremy Lin. He kind of showed up really quick for about a week and a half. That's kind of what I did for Rim to River. I had a really good stretch in there and then disappeared for like the rest of time. So that was, I think, the only athlete I could compare myself to in 2021 is Jeremy Lin.
I'll take it. I think Jeremy Lin's NBA performances are equivalent to the 98th fastest 100 miler in the 20 to 29 age group, 89th, 95th, 89th. Yes. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to shock you, but our very own Wesley Harton was the 89th fastest 20 to 29-year-old to run a 100-mile race this year. Got to give it up for the man himself.
Yeah, shout out to Paul Noble for that stat and passing that along to me. What a wild stat that is. So, like, just kind of like, breaking down the age groups, and, I forget the website that has that, but you kind of go in and see where you place within your age group for all 100 milers in an entire year. It was super cool to see.
Yeah,
Just a reminder of all those old guys that ran faster than you, huh?
Yeah, and so Caleb Bowen's in the chat right now, and I didn't scroll up far enough to see where he placed in that.
Not even close.
In that 20 that age group, he's got to be top 5. I mean, if not, number 1. My goodness, that's awesome. But that's I think enough for my reflections. Let's dive into the award that I'm announcing tonight, and I'm so pumped to announce this one. So I'm announcing the Women's Eastern Ultra Runner of the Year, the EU Roy, and 5th place. Let's start it off. We've got it going to Michelle Magna, and she had an incredible race. Cam mentioned earlier. She also ran Western States and had an awesome time there. 4th place, we've got it going to Micah Morgan, recent Returns Live guest as well, who absolutely crushed it at so many performances this year. Looking at her ultra sign-up, that was one that kind of jumped off the page as someone who's just had an incredible, start to finish throughout 2021. 3rd place is actually a tie. It's Holly Ann Swan and Jennifer Russo. So they both had, incredible performances. Holly Ann, Rims River 100 win. Jennifer Russo, Ohio's Backyard Ultra assist. Mohican 100 win, as well as a couple other performances as well. Taking home the runner-up spot, we've got it going to Sarah Beale. She had what a year she had. Promised Land 50K course record. She went out to the Leadville 50 and had a kind of a tricky day out there, but absolutely crushed that race. I believe she still finished 6th place, just outside the top 5 there, and so many other performances that she had. JFK 50 miler taking 2nd place there, well deserved of the runner-up spot, and taking home the win of this year's Eastern Ultra Runner of the Year on the women's side is your Rachel Spaulding. She's got the performance and the winner this year, but she had an incredible year from start to finish. And I want to take a second here to highlight, some of her performances. She started off the year with the Terrapin Mountain 50K win. After that, quick bounce back to the Promised Land 50K, taking home 2nd place. She won the Old Dominion 100 miler. We had her on Returns Live to talk about that race, and she was the 4th fastest time in the race's history there. She also made her way out west, Lake Tahoe, where she finished 10th place at the Broken Arrow Sky Race. And go check out that ultra sign up and just see the names of the runners that she was in and around for that race, because there were so many incredible athletes out there. Big time West Coast runners, and Rachel held her own at that incredible West Coast race. So that was another super fun one to see. She won the Mountain Masochist 50K after that, and obviously the performance of the year at Hellgate 100K in course record. On top of all of this, we do want to talk about the performances themselves, but Rachel's positivity and love for the sport is truly inspiring. For those that have raced with her, know that even when she's hurting, she's willing to crack a smile and brighten the mood of everyone around her. We're so excited to see her continue to grow into bigger things in the sport. There's absolutely no limit based on her talent, hard work, and her character as well. So Rachel Spaulding, congratulations on winning this year's 2021 Eastern Ultra Runner of the Year. What are you guys' thoughts?
I think it's a very, very well-deserving award here. It was tough to kind of go through and sit there and weigh individual performances, but like you were talking about earlier, is you have to take that step back and look at the big picture of the whole year. While, like we were going back and forth, Sarah took 1st place at Promised Land and Rachel got 2nd. So then you're looking at, okay, well, wait a minute, is Sarah more deserving of this award or not? And it's like she was also bouncing back, but on the whole year, she still did better overall, especially with that Hellgate that one sealed the deal for me. It was just that sub 12 hour finish there was like this one's hers for the year. That's my opinion.
And this kind of brings in the argument, I think the classic argument that we see with ultra running mags, Ultra Runner of the Year awards every year is, does the 100-mile distance matter? And does it hold weight over some of those others. And I think, you know, even though I think some of the other races are important, certainly like races like JFK and things like that, it is kind of the premier distance, or it's becoming so, certainly in our sport. And for me personally, in my vote, it did hold a little more weight because of that 100-mile distance. But I think the real overarching thing there is, and it goes for Rachel as well, but Sarah and Rachel are both really new to this sport. I mean, just a couple of years of running ultras. And then you can even go down the list to Holly Ann. Like, we're all really new and just getting into the ultras. So it's really it's no discredit, I think, to Sarah's year. She had an incredible year as well. It's just kind of, when you look at that whole body of work, you got to pick somebody.
Yeah, I can't agree more with what both John and Nick both said. You know, it kind of feels like this year for me, a lot of these performances, it's like, you know, before LeBron James left for the Miami Heat, we kept getting beat in the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, it's like LeBron James, clearly the best player in the NBA. He's clearly the greatest basketball player of all time already. And, you know, like, we're still, you know, runner-up in our own conference. And it's just, it's so hard to make that distinction. But when you look at the whole body of work, I think that's really what changes it. And it's, you know, kind of what I said about Zach Beaven. And it's like any other year, you know, as John said, the Hellgate 100K course record really puts it over the top. Any other year, right? It's like, Sarah, this is your award. But we've got so many great people having so many incredible performances in the East that I think that's another thing to really be grateful for, is that we have so many folks to look up to who run these races, who live in our communities, who are going to, you know, be out there. You know, they're going to be like Sarah Beale. They're going to be volunteering at the Shawnee 50, you know. They're not just somebody who lives and trains out west and they pop up to run 2 or 3 big name races a year that they absolutely knock out of the park. They're real people that you know, and they're really engaged. And I think that just goes to show the true depth and community that happens in these East Coast races that, you know, doesn't really get covered. And, you know, we'll hear my thoughts for sure after Ultra Running Mag puts out their own Ultra Runner of the Year awards. But if there's a couple people left off, I'm going to have beef. And we're going to have to maybe let that beef cook.
Yeah, you'll know about it. It'll be on Strava.
You absolutely will. I'm going to go to bat for any of y'all that were listed here, or even nominated. I really truly think that you know, and we all know this, you know, the community around ultra running is what makes it what it is, and to come together to celebrate these kinds of things that aren't going to be celebrated, you know, in the more traditional media outlets. That's the reason that we're doing this.
Yeah, no, Cam, I wholeheartedly agree. And John, before we dive into your reflection and the men's EU Roy, I do want to mention the other names that were nominated as well for this award, and those included Tara Dower, Molly Doyle, Nettie Zapatella, Jessica Kopowitz, and Mariana Grudziak. So shout out to everyone that was nominated as well for this incredible award. John, before we announce the men's EU Roy, I think we need to dive into your personal reflection. You know, if I had to personally pick someone on this Ridge Hunters team, you know, on the screen right now, who had the most successful 2021 as a whole, you know, I would definitely give that award to you. So I'm excited to kind of hear your thoughts on this year.
Well, yeah. So this year was really good for me. I was really excited about the way it played out. I had a couple bumps along the way that had me concerned, and I, you know, kind of was a little defeated. But I one of my favorite moments of the whole year was when I texted the group, and I was basically like, "Is Canal stupid 6 weeks out from Burning River?" When I dropped, and like, you're like, "Absolutely not." And then Voss is like, "Dude's on a mission. He's going to get it." Like, because I basically was like, immediately, like, what was it? I think less than a week after Burning River's DNF, I was like, all right, what's the next 100 that I could possibly sign up for? Like, not giving up on that goal of reaching that 100. But if we took it back to the beginning of the year, I started out with Nomies. I think I signed up for Nomies on a whim because Cam was doing it, and then went down there and bodied Cam because he dropped. And then I also signed up for Warhammer 50 miler later in the year, and also went and Cam dropped as well, and I didn't. So we had another one of those happen. And
just like dunk after dunk after dunk.
Honestly, it was after it happened at Warhammer 2, I was like, is this a thing that I'm gonna have to deal with? Is John my kryptonite? Do I DNF if he's at the race? Honestly, I'm honored. And I really think we've got the sports talk radio for ultra running. We've got to get the sports betting for ultra running, because whoever took, that Cam John to cover the spread, I think it's good money on that at the beginning of the year. And he just blew me out of the water, honestly.
Yeah, and I think it boils down to like that why that we were talking about with your reflection, and for me, like I had it, and it was strong this year with me. So like I wasn't giving up, even if I was walking to the finish line or until it said, either I got cut off by time, or like at Burning River, it was just unbearable for the pain. I just couldn't handle it there. But it's interesting because like I was able to put in enough time, I think, to get things done, but I didn't put in enough time in training to get things done well, I guess, so to speak. So like I'm excited for, using what I've learned this year, being all the experiences that I had being at all these different races, getting out, and like I'm not necessarily newer to the ultra scene, I guess, but I'm newer to a bunch of races. I've always done just maybe one a year. And this is the year I've done the most racing I've ever done in my life, and it was a lot of fun. So I want to do the same thing next year and the year after that, and just get out there and experience different courses, different climates across and whatnot. So I don't want to go too far into next year's plans, but LFG, and I'm ready to go. So
yeah,
that's all I think we have to say about that one for this episode. But as the one who has gotten bodied by John multiple times this year, maybe we'll get bodied by John come April. We will see. But the one thing I really do have to say, this is not even a press, but it's just like a compliment to John's year. And I don't think you're being like braggadocious at all when you're like, I had that why, and I knew, and I wanted this, and I was going to do this no matter what it took. I kind of saw that at Nomies. My DNF there was like, like I'm going out to Utah next week. I don't really care about this race. I don't want to do another lap. The course is pretty muddy. Like my feet smell, like there's a hole in my shoe. I like let every excuse be a part of that. And I was just like, I don't want to do this, And John was like, absolutely not. I'm doing this. I could see it, the fire in his eyes. And I can't wait to see what that desire turns into next year, knowing that you can do the 100-mile distance, knowing that you can show up to a race that we're both at and you're going to body me and throw down, terrible conditions that day at Warhammer 50. You're like, doesn't matter. I'm finishing this one, So I'm really excited to see what you can do with these next races, because keeping that fire alive is going to be really huge for you, especially with the lessons you've learned this year. Like, you can finish, and now we're going to see almost like, you're John Dolovacki the third, but you're going to be John Dolovacki the third 2.0 come next year. It's going to be like Tom Brady moving to the Bucs. I'm real excited for it.
So JD 3.2,
is
that what it's going to be? JD 3.2?
We might have to change your name to that.
And then I'm also, looking back this year, also super excited about the fact that, I went out and we had our Teton weekend, which we will have a film sometime early next year, mid next year. We haven't decided exactly when we're going to get that rolled out yet. But I just had a blast running and doing adventure stuff, in addition to just running structured training as well for a race, but like just having fun running, which is the whole point of why I started, really. So that was also, awesome that I went out west and got to see some mountains some more, and got my biggest training mileage week and biggest vert mileage week ever. I think that week I actually led all of Ridge Runner Nation on Strava with elevation, which was incredible for a guy from Ohio.
Yeah, and that club is ridiculous competitive too. I do want to say that. So, it's awesome that you were able to take home that crown that week.
I think it was like 15% of my yearly elevation came in a week.
Was that perfect prep for Canal?
I think it was because it was non-flat, and so all my flat muscles really got time to recover. And then when I went and did Canal, I didn't have to do anything else for the climbing because all those muscles were sore and recovering.
You heard it here first. If you are training for a mountainous Western Ultra, you gotta get those flat muscles golden. And if you want to run fast in the East, you gotta head to the Grand Tetons.
Yep.
You gotta get up above 10,000 feet. You gotta get in the Alpine. It works. We have a testament to it.
Yeah, I know. Jason Coop needs to reach out to me because we got to talk about this.
Hey, sometimes the unconventional things work. I mean, it reminds me of my buddy Grant Guthrie. You guys might know when he got into Western States with 1-2 tickets a few years ago and decided his prep race for Western States, which is historically like a net downhill, pretty runnable, except for the steep parts. He decided he was going to do the Cruel Jewel 50 mile like a month out from Western States as prep, and he did that and then went and ran sub 24 at Western. So sometimes it is the unconventional things, I guess.
Yeah, and you got to make the most of what you have, right? Every environment is going to be different. Not everybody gets to pick where they live. Not everybody is willing to, pick up and move all the way across the country to live in the mountains. They always say it, heat, humidity, that's the poor man's altitude. It absolutely makes running appreciably harder. That's, probably been my favorite thing about Montana so far is, our humidity is incredible compared to Ohio's. I think I would melt if I tried to run Cruel Jewel. I would never survive. And that's even if John wasn't there.
It's true.
Yeah, that Ohio humidity will get you. Being back east this weekend on my long run, I was thinking about Arlen, and I was like, oh man, okay, yeah, he just deals with this every single week, and so many other Ridge Hunter Nation members just handle that every single time, and it's awesome to see that throughout their training. But John, the one thing I do want to highlight for you, obviously the Canal Quarter 100 was also, the big performance of the year that kind of like capped off your year. But, after that, 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later, you sign up for a 50K on a whim and go out and run your 50K PR after Canal Corridor. So kind of like what Cam was saying, next level, we're just going to continue to see you grow within the sport. And it's honestly incredibly exciting.
I am just as excited. Can't wait for next year. And you'll have to tune into our next episode of Voss Talks to hear all about that.
Let's go. Let's announce that award.
All right. So I have the honor of giving out the Men's UROY Award. And just to make sure everyone is aware, these are awesome. We're having these awards made. And once we get pictures of the final product, we'll be sending those and sharing them as we send them out to their recipients. So the winners, we will reach out to you at some point to get your addresses to ship these amazing awards out to you because they are deserving of amazing awards. We had what am I starting with? 5th place? 6th place? What am I starting?
6th place.
6th place?
6th
All
place.
So I got 6th place here. We got a tie for Zach Beaven and Jeremy Pope, both doing great performances throughout the year. 5th place award, or 5th place going to Chris Roberts, who, fantastic performance out with Harvey down at Biggs. That was incredible. I can't imagine even fathoming running that far. It's incredible. Our 4th place was Caleb Bowen with his incredible performance over at Rim to River and doing well throughout the year on top of that. 3rd place, Michael DeBova. 2nd place, this is good. We're getting real good now. 2nd place award, Harvey Lewis, which means our 1st place award goes to none other than Arlen Glick, a man well deserving of this award. As we were talking earlier, looking big picture, Arlen crushes the game this year, and it's just how it goes. Our senior data analyst provided some stats on this. He's over there laughing. Some of these come courtesy of Michael Owen at Owen Running on Twitter. It says Arlen Glick is 9-1 in the 100-mile races since his first one in 2019.
Wait. That's 9 wins out of 10 wins, right? In 100 milers.
Yes.
Believe. Ridiculous.
Yes.
He's 9 for 10 for wins with 100 milers.
Yeah. Who is 9 for 10 in finishes in 100 milers that you know? Seriously, start Throw
Gabe
names at me
Rainwater.
I
in the
gotta
chat.
finish 8 more.
Okay, all right, we got one.
Rick Homan.
Okay, all right, I get it, guys.
Michael Owen.
Shoot, he's only 9 for 10.
Yeah.
Not to take a shot at him, because he's run 10 really hard hundreds.
I think Voss is working on
like,
the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I could not say it.
He's like, I'm going for overtime.
It's like what's that game where you can like you bet on the number of hands you're gonna win in cards, and if you bet you're not gonna win any, it's like the hardest thing to get. Maybe that's it. If I just don't finish any of them, that's actually harder.
Probably
it's
at
like
some
the Browns statistically being so bad over so many years. You're like, I'm bound to finish one of these races.
All right.
All right.
Back on topic here.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Nick. I had to.
All right, I've never done Canal Corridor, so
Oh, he's still throwing shots.
We'll see how it goes
DNF
next
76 if my money's on that, but
I think I'm gonna. Yeah, we'll talk about it next week. I have some comments for next year. But for Arlen's, we got 8 of them were sub 16, 6 were sub 15, and 4 were sub 14. And that spread is incredible. Like the precision basically on those times with the different and varying elevation is incredible to do. His fastest was at Tunnel Hill, which is a 12:57, and that's the only one he did not win. And yeah, that's incredible. Like I can't even imagine having my legs move that fast. It just doesn't work that way. But well deserving, and like you said, 9-1 in wins on 100-mile races since his first one in 2019. So.
Yeah, and Carl Meltzer actually provided some other stats for 2021 alone, which is kind of interesting as well on Twitter. He's in elite air with number of wins in a year alone. With the amount of people that have won 4 100-mile races in one calendar year include Clifton, Meltzer, Rose, and now Glick has 4 or more 100-mile wins. So I think when Carl Meltzer's kind of out there, supporting. Letting you know, like, hey, this is pretty elite stuff. What Arlen did this year at these races, I think it definitely, it kind of just validates it even more. But obviously, so many people saw, if you were there at Mohican or you were there at the other races, you saw what he did, and truly inspiring performances across the board from Arlen this year.
Yeah, and
yeah,
that Carl tweet was really kind of for me one of the things that kind of sold the final, that step above for Arlen to be above Harvey on the year. Harvey did great with FKTs and, the Badwater win and obviously 350 miles. Like, that's incredible too. But I was just like looking at what I have to compare to. I think it's what gave it that one step, even half a step. It was still a close race.
it's no disrespect to Harvey, obviously, either. Like he, I think, mentioned it was eight of 8. His goal this year was the podium at all of those races, and he did. And just to give Harvey a little credit too, I think the one that stands out for me the most, knowing that Harvey is a guy who runs flatter and faster races typically, or backyards, going up to Superior 100 in Minnesota and taking second place at that race. That's got 20K vert. Just not what I would have expected from Harvey. So huge performance for him in that race too. And, he did have a heck of a year.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more. It's the same exact thing that I said about, Zach Beaven getting second to Harvey for men's performance of the year. It's like any other year, Harvey, call us because we need your address. We've got stuff to put. Well, we got stuff to put in the mail for you anyways. But, it's Arlen's body of work, and that he's run so many 100-milers so fast is really just unfathomable to me, in a way. And going from, being at Mohican 100, which, by the way, it's his slowest 100. It was his first one at Mohican 100, which is about 18 hours. If you've run the Mohican 100, 18 hours is so far from a gimme finish at that race. He went out, and that's his slowest 100-mile finish, to my knowledge, and he still won it. And then next year he comes up and he shatters the course record. And there was never a doubt. I'll never get over seeing him when I'm out there pacing Jamie Hanks at Mohican 100, seeing Arlen and his pacer pass me on their fourth loop when Jamie's on his third, and Arlen looks as calm and as fresh and can be. I don't even think the guy sweats. I don't know, whatever it is that he takes or whatever it is that he eats, I need to buy whatever it is, because he's got it. And just that consistent number of 100-mile performances and 100-mile wins all stacked together. And when you add in the fact that we kind of discussed earlier, like Nick said, 100 miles is the premier distance in this sport. I think 50Ks are great. That's probably all I'm going to run next year. I think backyard ultras are super cool too. Definitely haven't figured that out personally. But 100 miles is the distance. That is the distance of our sport, and it's our yardstick. It's how we measure performances against each other, for better or for worse. And there is nobody in the world that I want to bet against in Arlen Glick in a 100-miler. Everybody needs to stop just calling him some guy from Ohio, because he's not just some guy from Ohio. And this is where my beef with Ultra Running Mag is really going to be, because if he's not in their top 10, I need to find out where they live. We've got some things to settle.
And to be fair, Harvey and Arlen in the top 10 for Ultra Runner Magazine, Ultra Runner of the Year. Like, it's well deserving for both aspects, for both of them to be in that top 10 this year. And it'll be an absolute travesty if they're not. And like Nick was saying, Harvey had a phenomenal year, even starting the year off with a long haul 100 win as well, and winning Badwater, and obviously the backyard ultra. Course world record was truly awe-inspiring. So Harvey, this is the toughest, and the men's EU Roy this year was the toughest decision I could even imagine. Probably the last couple of years, if you were trying to give this award out to someone, I don't think there's ever been 1-2 as close as these two were this year. And it was exciting all year to kind of follow them, see their races, see what they're up to, and continue to inspire people throughout the way. So that was, I truly enjoyed what they both put down on paper this year.
Yeah, I almost thought that Harvey was going to jump in Javelina just to go and take his crack. That would have been fun.
That would have been.
I was also excited to watch Arlen at Desert Solstice too, to see him perform on a track like that. And even his comments afterwards on Strava were awesome, where he's like, I got a big old slice of humble pie today. And, it just shows that he's still got a ton to learn too in the 100-mile distance and those longer races that are, longer than that. And where he's going to go next year is just going to be exciting to watch.
Arlen wins Western 2022.
Where do I send my money? I know sports betting is only legal at casinos in Montana.
So my Venmo is.
There's some nearby. Where do I sign? Tell me when to do it. I say this. I've literally got on my long haul shirt. We saw the performance Harvey had there. But you can't bet against Arlen Glick right now in a 100-mile race. I don't know what it is, but this guy has the stuff. And whether or not he has the stuff in 2022, knock on wood, we're going to figure it out. But in 2021, he was unbeatable at that distance.
Well, the Western win, the door is open because Jim's not going to be running this year or next year. And, I think Arlen's got a good shot. I'd love for him to just shoot for top 10, get to top 10 and seal the deal there, learn the course, because then I think that would make him a shoe-in to win it the next year.
Yeah, because he would have
smart advice.
Guaranteed spot.
Yeah, that's conservative advice. That's advice you get from a man in his 30s like Nick versus a 24-year-old like me. Arlen is in his 30s.
Go with it.
So,
Arlen just turned 29 years old, I believe. So happy birthday, Arlen, as of 2 days ago as well.
He's also in your age group, Wes.
yeah. We need to change that.
Yeah, I wonder where he placed up in the top of that for the year.
Yeah, he had to be number one. Sorry, Caleb. But awesome stuff tonight. It was really fun to announce these awards, and kind of like John said, we are getting these professionally made, and so we will be shipping these out to our winners. Do we have any final thoughts from the team here? Who's got some closing statements.
I got some things here before we want to fully close out of this. We did our reflections, and we talked about these amazing awards as well. But I wanted to kind of briefly do a Ridge Runners. Oh, my camera just died. We'll get that fixed in a second. But I wanted to talk
It's a Wesley move right there.
Oh, yeah, I know it is. A Ridge Runners recap. So I wanted to know.
He'll be running faster at 100 miles than you next year with this.
Yeah. Just overall with just Ridge Runners and how Ridge Runners did, and reflections on shows and guests and what we've done over the past year. So who wants to start? I think whoever wants to.
I mean, I think the big thing, John, you mentioned that my position for work, I'm a senior data analyst for a startup. And, I'll throw out the data numbers, but we more than doubled our subscribers and we more than doubled our followers on Instagram as well, which is huge. We love to see that kind of growth because it means more engagement with our community and more people are involved, more people, they'll call into the show, they're nominating guests, they're doing that sort of thing. But also the other thing that I really love data and statistics wise is that we sit a little bit better in terms of gender for our social media followers compared to ultra running as a whole. We're about 60-40 male to female, which is really, really good. When you look at the statistics in running as a whole, all the way up till ultra running, it is generally more women are participating in races. Then all of a sudden in ultras, it is more men. At the 50K distance, it's about that 60-40 split, which is where we are. And I think that that's really great. And that's one of my goals personally. And this is, we're not just talking about voices from the East, but we're making sure to, put women on that podium next to the men if we can get them on the show. And also making sure to share the different voices in this sport that really make this sport whole. And it's not just about, the guys and gals who are running fast out west. It's really about this community as a whole. And I think that when you dive into the stats about who follows us, it really shows that that is who is also following us. So that was one thing for me when looking back on our year that was really great stats wise.
Yeah, and outside of the stats, it was, so many incredible conversations were had this year. When I look back on some of my favorite all-time Ridge Runners live shows, and we launched Voss Talks basically at the end of 2020, but adding this to the platform as well, these were some of my favorite conversations. I personally learned so much from so many Ridge Runner Nation members. So thank you guys for being willing to come on the show weekly and share your stories. And one thing that we do want to keep improving on is getting different types of guests on the show to tell more unique stories. And we've received a lot of incredible feedback, and we still are accepting feedback for our year in review survey. That's in the YouTube description, I believe. If I did any prep work for this at all, I believe it's there. You can go there. If not, it's on social media for us, and you can give us your thoughts about how can we improve for 2022, because there's a lot of things that we do want to work on for 2022. We've had so much incredible feedback already that we're already starting to implement as well. So there's a lot of big things on the horizon. And, one thing that I personally want to take up to the next level, and maybe we can not hint about this a little bit too much for maybe next week's episode, but prediction videos are coming up one more level in 2022, and I'm excited about it. So that's my 2 cents on Ridge Runners 2021.
Nick, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just the growth of not just the channel, but the community of Ridge Runners Nation and everything, and just being able to notice it, and feel it when we go to races and things like that, and people say, "Oh, hey, by the way, I'm so and so, and I watch your guys' show and love it and love what you guys do." And that's the thing that sticks out to me. And the most recent one, a guy came up to me and he goes, "Hey, you're that guy from YouTube." And I was like, I paused for a second, and this was in Colorado somewhere. and I thought maybe I think I was at a race, but I thought maybe he was talking about Ridge Runners. And then he goes, "Yeah, like the motorcycle show." And I was like, "Oh no, that's not me. It's not me." But no, but seriously, I think we all appreciate, when people come up to us and chat and introduce themselves and let us know what they think of the show and everything.
Yeah, and I think it's great when people do that. And I love it's it's sometimes funny because like I don't necessarily know everyone's names or faces, and it's, you know, more of like an introverted person. So like I love when people come up and introduce themselves and say we watch it and we like it and whatnot, and it just means like the world, because it's like it's just such a good feeling to hear that. Like, you know, when I was running my Nomies, like, or running with my Nomies, Dan Mead I believe his last name. He was like running next to me and he's like, oh hey, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get. I was like, huh? You're gonna get that 100-miler, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I'm glad you are watching the Road to 100 stuff and following the story with Ridge Runners, and you know that means a lot. You're spending your time to basically listen to what we want to just talk about on live YouTube, because we got nothing else to do with our evenings. And like Wesley said, not going too much into next year, I am just excited to take what we've been doing and what we've been working on and move it up a notch. Turn that dial to 11, as they say. If anyone gets the Spinal Tap reference, I'm excited.
I somehow think that the age is showing, even between like you and Nick somehow.
But how is that possible?
I got that reference, which I don't think I'm the intended audience for it, but you know, is what it is, John.
But it's been a great year, and to add a couple more is like just I think one of my favorite parts looking back on the year with Ridge Runners Live is talking to so many people, not only elites, but people who are just normal human beings who just are out doing normal races with normal finish times. And it just was a huge struggle for them to get there. So, like, those are some of my favorite stories to listen to.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that, John, to repeat something that I told you, you know, which is ultra runners are the least average, most average people you will ever meet in your life. And I said that about John specifically, who was talking, you know, I forget how it came up, but I think he said something to the line of, oh, I'm just kind of like, you know, your average guy. When people see me and they see, you know, like I can run 100 miles, they go, oh, I can do it. And I'm like, John, you are so far from average. You know, you're an inspiration to me as a friend. But in addition to that, you know, everybody who chooses to be a part of this community is so incredibly special just for taking that step and choosing to attempt one of these things that, you know, somehow we represent the world really, really well, I think. In that, you know, you're going to go to a race and you're going to see people from every group. You're going to see people with every kind of body type. You're going to get beat, if you're me, by some dude with Nike Shocks on, who's had them since 2006. And you're like, I don't know how you're not injured. And also, why are you passing me at mile 27? This is something I got to deal with. But, you know, this is just such an incredible group of people who are all so normal in everything else that they do, but also so abnormal in everything else that they do. And if, you know, you look at the statistics for, you know, like how far does the average American walk in a day? You know, how many miles does the average American walk in a year? How many beers does the average American drink in a year? And almost every ultra runner is blowing out almost every one of those categories in every single way. And that's just, you know, that's what makes me appreciate this so much, that there's so many of these other people who, like me, are, you know, your least average, most average people that you're ever going to meet in your life.
True that. And if anyone has anything else before do a quick closeout, I just want to give shout outs to everyone in the chat this evening. Eric, Maggie, Michael, Chris Roberts, Teresa, Logan, Caleb. Is everybody?
Craig Diatley with a late ad there as well. He said, thanks for an inspiring 2021. And, you know, honestly, Craig, you're another one of those guys. One of the least average, most average humans that we've ever met. And you're, you know, an inspiration to meet at the Backyard Ultra.
I need this on a t-shirt.
That would be, you know, I hate to say it as the guy who designed it, and it's definitely maybe my baby. But that year in review survey, you would buy a Ridge Runners t-shirt that says least average, most average person you'll ever meet. You can tell us there. And we might be able to make that happen for you in 2022.
Yeah, no, I I love that. Before we close out, I got one question. It's for the man on the far left side of the screen, Nicholas Voss. In 2022, will we officially see you take over the main responsibilities of hosting the one and only program on Voss Talks that has your name, Voss, that has, on the YouTube channel that has your name in it, Voss Talks?
Oh, I don't know, Wesley. I don't know. I guess we got about a week to figure that out, and we'll have to let you know next week on the next Voss Talks.
Let's go. Next Wednesday, I believe, at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will be having our goals, and more goals Voss Talks, where maybe, just maybe, Nicholas Voss will be holding down the fort with all of us. We cannot wait to kind of, give our goals for 2022, our goals for Ridge Runners for 2022, and also hear your goals for 2022. Call in next Wednesday. We cannot wait to hear from all of you. That's all we got of this episode. Thanks for joining us. It's been an incredible year. Ridge Runner Nation, we love you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great night.